Hello, everybody. Hope you're doing well. I am with a very special person in my life today in Hot Springs, Arkansas. And this is my son, Lee. And Lee is a chaplain in the U.S. Army. And proud of you, son. Thank God for you serving the country, but also serving the call on your life. He's a third generation minister. It all started many years ago with my dad, his granddad, and here he is. And the life of the ministry, you just have to sometimes work in special occasions. So we're actually celebrating, or in a few moments, we're going to celebrate Christmas here in Hot Springs, Arkansas.
Yep.
I'm came in from Bethalto, Illinois, and you came in from Killeen, Texas.
Yes.
So I had a great day yesterday. Saw the hot springs, and they were hot.
They were hot, yes.
So anyway, but I thought be an opportunity. You hear me sometimes mention my son and his family, and so nothing else. Just take a look and get to see my son, and I am proud of you, Lee. I appreciate what you do and how you're serving the Lord and our country. And go ahead and say hello to your grandmother. At least she'll watch this.
Okay.
Nobody else does. My number one fan.
Absolutely. Good morning, Mama. I hope you're doing well.
And then a lot of people from Fort Mill will watch. So they're.
Hello.
I always said I was kind of like Brother Dowdy, W.E. Dowdy. You might not remember him, but he was a legend in South Carolina back in the day. And one church he was at, he says when he got up to tell them that he was leaving, he says, "I have now made everybody in the church happy. And when I arrived, some were happy while I was there, some were happy. Now that I'm leaving, the rest of you are happy."
There you go.
So I probably did that at Fort Mill, but I think when you left, you made everybody sad. They love you and your family. They love Sanja, and they just put up with me.
There you go.
And they love Breon and her family. But anyway, hello to everybody out there. But let's talk shop a minute, son.
Sure.
I have a lot of sharp young ministers in Illinois, and some that are rising up, and I know others across the country watch this as well. And I'll never forget the day. It was kind of a sad day for me on a personal level when you told me that because we had the privilege of working together on staff, and it was some special years. And but you didn't start out as a chaplain. You started out in the military through the Marines.
Yes.
And that it just and I'll let you tell your story, but it just gripped your heart, and you decided to go back into the Army as a chaplain. And I've watched your ministry, I've watched your career, and it's a very viable ministry. And so talk to us about it. I don't want to lose, like I didn't want to lose you. I had a great staff member, and I don't want to lose one pastor. I need every one of them, or one minister. But more importantly than what I want God's will for their lives. And there's a lot of young men and women, and older men and women out in our military and around the world that need a man of God or a woman of God. So talk to us a minute about chaplaincy and the viability of that as an option for ministry.
Oh, absolutely. Good morning, everyone. And Dad, thank you for the opportunity to talk to your pastors and those who tune in.
Sure.
Like you were saying, I am a Church of God minister. Started out working at Fort Mill Church of God, where I was on staff for 7 years. And as you alluded to, when I was a younger man, I spent 6 years in the Marine Corps Reserve. So I started enlisted, and during that period in my life, I encountered it was a Navy chaplain being in the Marines Department of the Navy. It was a Navy chaplain, and I thought that was interesting, but it was just a chance encounter one weekend at a drill. And then I also a little later met Dr. Crick, who was the Church of God's endorsing agent endorser. Currently it's Dr. Richard Pace, but at that time it was Dr. Crick, and he spoke to me a little bit about it. So long story short, some seeds were planted when I was a younger man about the possibility of serving as an Army chaplain, but it wasn't until around the age of 30 that the Lord began to put that on my heart more. And it started with just a simple what if and a conversation with Richard Pace, and I said, "Lord, if this is your will, open the doors and make it happen, and if it's not, close the doors." And long story short, the process went through and went very smoothly, and I was brought on to active duty as a chaplain in January of 2016. So I have been serving now in the U.S. Army as an active duty chaplain for now 9 years, and it's been a great experience. So to sort of talk about what that is like, I would describe it as Paul does, tent maker ministry. I have the dual role. I'm the religious leader for my organization, where I have some staff responsibilities, but I also have ministry opportunities, and I'm grateful. And you wear both hats essentially. You serve as a staff officer on the staff of your organization, and there are different levels depending on how long you've been in. But for the first part of my career, and for most chaplains, there is a lot of hands-on ministry. You're essentially like a pastor to your organization. And so with that, the demographics of the military, the large majority of the military fall into the 18 to 24 age bracket. And of that, I would say 3/4, if not probably more, in the Army are male. So you're dealing with a lot of young men. And with that, it can sometimes feel almost like a youth pastor. I remember distinctly when I was on my second assignment. I had been in for about 4 years. I turned 40 during that assignment. I remember the day where it just dawned on me that I'm old enough to be some of these people. I'm old enough to be their dad. So kind of approaching ministry almost like a father.
You're an old guy in the Army.
Yes, but with that, I find a lot of, over the years, in the day-to-day, there is a lot of counseling, a lot of just being present in soldiers' lives, just being there through the ups and the downs, the good and the bad. But it has been a meaningful experience. I've had the opportunity to serve overseas. I've been to the Middle East. I've spent time in Korea. I've spent time in Germany. So I've had an opportunity to serve both in a garrison environment as well as a deployed environment. And I've been very blessed to have these chances to serve the Lord and to serve my country in this way. So, yeah.
Well, Lee, if a young man or woman, and then like you say, 30s, a middle-aged young man or woman, if they wanted to pursue or look into chaplaincy, what would they need to do?
Sure. If you're interested in learning more about serving as a United States chaplain, the first thing I would encourage you to do is reach out to the Church of God's endorsing agency, which again, I believe it falls under World Missions, if I remember correctly. Is that right? Or
no, I forget. It's a different care ministry.
Care ministry. I'm sorry. It falls under the Department of Care, but it's Dr. Pace, and his office can provide you all the details, but a minimum to serve as a chaplain. First of all, I came on active duty at the age of 34, and I shortly turned 35. So don't think, oh, I'm too old. As a chaplain, it's okay. They'll take chaplains all the way up to age 42. So that's the good news. The second thing is the requirements are you need to have a Master's of Divinity. There are a number of schools out there. I know the School of Theology. We have several Church of God chaplains who went through there. I started at Gordon Conwell. They had a Charlotte campus when we were living there, and I finished through Liberty University online. So there are options to do your schooling, but you'll need to have your Master's of Divinity of at least 72 hours, and then following that, some ministry experience. And again, through those conversations with Dr. Pace and the chaplain recruiter, there are waivers and things for especially pastors that have been active in ministry for many years, and maybe some of that, or a majority of that, came before your MDiv. All that to say, ministry experience of at least 2 years, Master's of Divinity, and then you would submit your packet through Dr. Pace and the Church of God Endorsers Committee, the Chaplains Commission there.
I was privileged to serve, I think, 8 years on the Church of God Chaplains Commission, and so I didn't know a thing about it when I first went in. But I just want to salute, remind all of us that our chaplains, and I know I have my son here, but long before he did this, we can be very proud of our military chaplains. They're highly trained, and they seem like Lee is constantly in school. The government, to their credit, is investing in you. So if you know a Church of God chaplain or a retired Church of God chaplain, he or she would make a great resource in your life and in your ministry. They're trained in counseling and serving in unique situations, and so I love you, man. All right, just real quick. I don't want to be too long today, but you mentioned you sometimes feel like a youth pastor, and you shared some of the stories. You don't go into betray confidences or anything, but you should share some of the unique stories that you go through. And all of the younger generation is almost like a war zone for pastors, and these guys are dealing with young men and women too that come from some of the same issues. And first of all, it's humbling to think these young men and women are protecting us guys. And the Army sometimes, or the military, not just the Army, can get caught in the crosshairs of maybe some of the political maneuvers going on in our country. But at the end of the day, it's just young men and women that serving their country and keeping us safe. And so I salute all of them. And but pastors, they have. I know in my state, Illinois, it's some tough neighborhoods and some kids that really need God, and our pastors are trying to minister to them. And so, just give them some advice. If you got just the troubled kids, you have to deal with them every day. What's some advice for pastors in general?
Absolutely. So, to not belabor the point, because I know we're on a short timeline, but I would say never underestimate the power of community. What I've found as a chaplain through both my day-to-day role in my unit as well as on weekends with our chapel communities that we are a part of, often the gospel starts over building relationships around a table. Some of the things that can go the longest way to helping prepare a heart to receive Christ is just living life together, having meals together. We have overseas as well as here in the U.S. at our different duty stations, we've had community groups, missional community groups, small groups where we'll invite people into our home. And especially when we were in Korea and Germany, being away from our family, our organic family, our small groups became like our surrogate families. And so we were able to build relationships and really care for families and soldiers through just living life together, having meals together, and through those types of just day-to-day encounters, it really helped build relationship and trust so that we could then witness to them and share the gospel. So I would say community is a powerful tool. And it doesn't have to be forced. Just come in, let's have a meal, let's get to know each other, and let it happen organically. So that's
just hang out, yeah.
Just spend time together, and that's both for the single soldiers that I work with, just living life day to day, as well as with some of the families that we met through our chapel community and others.
Don't you think? And I had to struggle or had to guard against this too. Don't you think it's the temptation there with a pastor? If you have a youth pastor or youth leaders, you kind of just let them handle all that, but really that senior pastor, that lead pastor, it really is helpful just to mix and mingle, to be there and show up, just to hang out sometime. I mean, that's kind of what you have to do now. You're at that level of your career.
Absolutely. And there is power in having multi-generational communities.
Yeah.
People that are young with kids to people that are retired and all in between. Because we all, as the body of Christ, have something to offer. And some of those life experiences and seasons of life and ministry that you've gone through at this point can be of an encouragement, and just the perspective and wisdom that comes with age can often be very helpful. I definitely feel that. I am certainly in my community, I am an old man. The Army is a young man's game, so to be 43, soon to be 44, I'm definitely an old man, but I try to, bring what I can to encourage our young soldiers.
Yeah. Well, if they're playing video games and if it's Pac-Man or what's the cone? Something.
Oh, Donkey Kong.
Donkey Kong.
Yeah.
You got it.
Yeah. If they're having a throwback Thursday, I might have a chance. Yeah.
So anyway, I'm thinking of a couple pastors. I'm not going to call you names. Everybody be mad at you called teacher's pet, but Winterfest right here. I guess it's Ozark. I think it's in Missouri. Sanj and I go because I want to hang out. Just let the young people see us, but. I think of several senior pastors that go down there, and they're not spring chickens either. But they go and they mix and they mingle, and those are the kind of things that's how you do it. That is how you reach a younger generation. Not just wagging your finger and preaching them.
For sure.
One more thing, the kind of the irony of it is when a man kind of gets into the prime of his career sometime, he's also has the most responsibility as a father. And your career now demands you were flying this week. You flew in and made the effort to drive 6 hours so we can meet here in the middle and have Christmas. And you appreciate you keeping family in its proper place. But more important than Papa and Nana, you've got 2 teenagers, right?
Two teenagers, soon to be 3. Next month I'll have 3.
Yeah, Annie, his baby, Annie was saying yesterday, I can't wait to be a teenager. And I was thinking, that sounds kind of ominous.
Yeah.
So just a quick juggling career for men, not only in the ministry, just men, period. Just
Sure.
Juggling career and trying to, you work hard at being a good husband and father, and I salute you for that as well.
Sure.
Give us some. I probably was not always the best. You've done. You learn from my mistakes, and so give us some advice.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'll certainly try. Two things I think that I've had to learn along the way. I had a commanding general recently make the comment: work-life balance is a myth, but it's more about trade-offs, and it's about making decisions. What really matters to you? And so we talk a lot about allowing our values to drive our decisions when it comes to how we spend money, talent, treasure, time, all of those things. So trying to allow our values. And so for me, family is an important value, and I try to allow that to take precedence. And along those lines, when you're present, be present. I think that goes a long way. When you have, again, there are parallels to full-time ministry with the military, both vocations, and I am a service member for a reason. I serve the country, but in any type of vocation along those lines, there are a lot of time demands that can go beyond your typical 9 to 5, just like a pastor. And so it's about trade-offs, and obviously there will be seasons where you'll have more time and less time, but when you have time, I would encourage you, be present, be there, make the effort to be fully engaged with your family in those times. So that's the first thing I would say. It's a trade-off, and decide what is most important, and allow your values to drive that in that. And the second thing that I would offer along those lines is just sometimes there's this idea that we want to have it all, and perhaps we can have it all, but not at the same time. So there are seasons, and right now there are some things I've had to put to the side, maybe some things I would enjoy doing personally, but I'm going to wait on those things because while I have 3 in the house, I'm trying to maximize the time I have.
Yeah.
And so just maybe think in terms of the seasons that are available to you, and then finally be intentional. One thing the military has helped me with is I have a calendar, and I know that I have these dates coming up, and there's also sort of a rhythm and a cycle to when I arrive at an installation, when I'm going to depart an installation. So we are intentional about planning times together because there is a lot of unpredictability, but within that unpredictability, there is sort of a rhythm of military life. And so we use that to be intentional with planning. So life just has a way of happening. So I encourage you to make a plan. So I guess that's what I would offer: trade-offs, seasons, and intentionality. Very
good, son. How did you turn out so smart? You took after your mother, huh?
I have an amazing mother and a pretty good dad, too.
I was thinking, I've told some young guys this, because there's this pressure on your generation. I remember it started about your generation. You put your family first. You be at every ball game and everything, whatever. And hey, it's okay if you miss a ball game.
Oh, absolutely.
You just can't. I like that. You can't. What did your general say now?
Oh, it's about trade-offs rather than work-life balance, because
the balance is a myth. What's a myth?
Yeah, work-life balance is a myth.
It's a myth, and it really is.
And so it's an interesting thought. I'm still kind of chewing through all that. That doesn't mean you don't strive for it, but at the end of the day, you recognize there are some trade-offs, and if you're going to trade family, make sure it's worth it.
Absolutely.
Make sure it's worth it. And sometimes in ministry there are those times where you have to, and that's where we trust that the Lord, what we give to the Lord, He'll give back in due time, in season.
Amen. Well, before we hang up, what's the answer to the question I should ask? What else needs to be said? What's on your heart? Anything?
Just that it's a privilege to do what I do. I'm truly thankful, and I would emphasize what you said to open with, which is calling. The Army doesn't need more chaplains. The Army needs more called chaplains. And I generally, when people talk to me about chaplaincy, that's what I start with. Well, tell me about your calling. Tell me about your reasons for wanting to be a chaplain. Because at the end of the day, as a Church of God chaplain, I am very privileged to represent our church, and more importantly, represent the Lord. And so what I try to do is make sure that the decisions I make are calling decisions, and they're decisions that honor the Lord. So I just offer that, and if it's something that you believe the Lord might be leading you towards, I would at least pursue it, and if it's not what He wants, He'll shut the door.
Good word. Well, son, it's been good hanging out with you. Let's go celebrate Christmas, all right?
All right.
Love you guys. Let's keep running to win. See you around the bend.